Start with Manchester United and interesting developments tonight on a Chelsea player.
Yeah, interesting indeed. This broke around 6 o'clock this evening, the last hour. Chelsea forward Christopher Nkunku is a potential target for Manchester United in this window. Now, talks are understood to have been held between intermediaries about a move. Now, they don't want to sell Nkunku, but it is thought they would be tempted to do business for £70 million. Now, he's a player United are considering, but unlikely to meet that £70 million figure. We know Bayern Munich are interested, but that's a development tonight. Interest from Manchester United.
Sky, it's clear that Chelsea are looking to trim their squad, some would say yet again. From an agent's perspective, how does it work? Is that driven by the club, and what form does that take?
Well, first and foremost, if a player's not playing, then the player's not happy and the agent's not happy. But from Chelsea's perspective, if they are going to trim their squad, they're going to be on the phone to agents saying, look, you need to get your player out. Or sometimes a coach will have a conversation with a player and say, you're not in my plans. And that's normally a trigger to get the player to go to his agent and say, look, you got to get me out of here. But the January window is notoriously difficult. So they've got a short period of time. But you would expect that Chelsea would have been having conversations with agents and players, and the coach would have maybe had a conversation with a player well before the January transfer window, so that they're prepared to get going within these 4 weeks.
Is it a case that all of these agents are being called by the club individually, saying, listen, we've got player A, B, C, D and E, and we need them out of the club. What clubs can you bring to the table?
No, it comes in different forms. Part of it may be the club saying, we need to balance the books, and so these players need to go. But it's normally not, going to a player and just saying, we don't want you. It's the coach saying, you're not in our plans. It's the club maybe telling the coach that if you want to bring someone in, you've got to get players out. But the catalyst is normally, if a coach says you're not in my plans, it's very difficult for the player to stay there. And the hierarchy, the big decision makers, they normally don't tell the players. They're telling the agents or they're telling the coach. And then the agents are under massive pressure. I mean, agents can lose clients if they don't get them out, if they're not playing. But Chelsea pay very well. They're a very financially strong club. So, playing for Chelsea, big club, a lot of players don't want to leave. But if they need to be relevant, they need to go and play somewhere.
Just sticking with Chelsea, of course, there's a lot of a link between Manchester United and Chelsea with Alejandro Garnacho just now. The interest is there, no official offer. Napoli also interested in Alejandro Garnacho. They've had a bid rejected. There's a gap in valuation. They've yet to come back in. Sky Italy are now reporting that United may have reduced their valuation for Garnacho, but Napoli now also looking at the Borussia Dortmund forward, Karim Adeyemi. And amidst all of that, Garnacho is starting games for Manchester United, as he did, some will say very impressively, against Rangers in the Europa League last night. But Sky, I want to take you to another big issue at Manchester United. His name, of course, is Marcus Rashford. From what you've seen, I know you're looking at it from the outside, how has this been handled by Rashford and his camp? First off, particularly to do with that interview that was probably done without United's permission, saying, I need a new challenge. I need the next steps in my career.
It's interesting because there's a lot of game playing in football. What the fans see and hear normally isn't what's going on. No one really knows what's going on with Marcus behind the scenes. But the fact is that he was being honest when he did that interview. And honesty isn't normally taken with gratitude. A lot of people think, well, why did you say that? That was how he felt. And behind the scenes, there's obviously been a disconnect. But people seem to forget, that what he's done in society, how good a footballer he is, but what people are seeing now is a disconnect between the player and the club, and there's lots of different narratives being put out there, but let's remember, he's still a young man. He's proved he can play at the highest level. It's just that in his eyes, some players, like Marcus, will just be honest about the situation. Now, if he'd not been honest, and said, I'm going to stay here, I want to be here, and all this kind of stuff, people would have just accepted it.
But what I would say is this interview was done well before the transfer window opened.
Yeah.
So once that interview was done, the general consensus was there must be a club that's ready to take Marcus Rashford. We're on day 24 of this transfer window. Has Marcus Rashford and his camp maybe overestimated the market for him?
Well, let's say that he was planning to leave, right? Him and his representatives would have planned to have a club in place, etc., etc. What this shows is that he didn't plan to say this. He was having an interview and he said something, but it was honest. He was being honest about how he felt. So now we're in a situation where he has said what he wants to do, and now it's in his hands to do what he wants to do.
Sky, let's go to the club then, his current club. How have Manchester United handled this then, do you think?
I mean, it's interesting. Manchester United are one of the biggest clubs in the world. And my view is that when you've got the revenue that Manchester United have got, right, they have got the power to do anything they want to do. They can hire the best people, they can hire the best recruitment, and then when they're dealing with players, they've got to have the best possible person to deal with the situation. It's all about sitting people in the right chairs. No matter how much money you've got to have the right people doing the right things, because if you don't, those people are just getting in the way. This situation is a massive thing, because he signed a long-term contract, he's on big money, he's a big star, and from Manchester United's point of view, the way they've got to handle it is to make sure that there is a good resolution, that it comes out best for them from their point of view. And what's best for them? Once there's an issue with a player, the longer the player stays at the club, the more of an issue it becomes.
So, look, the good resolution for United, it seems, would be for Marcus Rashford to go on loan to a club in Europe, right? We're running out of time now, though, and there's every chance that Marcus Rashford will remain at Manchester United. Now, given everything that's happened, given the finances involved, if you are in Marcus Rashford's ear, if you're in his camp, come 11 p.m. on February the 3rd, if he's still a Manchester United player, what's your advice to him then?
No, there's going to be people in for him. He's a fantastic player. What's happened is a coach has come in and just taken him out of the squad. And no player of his level can just sit on the bench forever. It would massively surprise me if there isn't something happening, and something will happen before the end of the window. But if he stays at Manchester United, it's not a bad second option. You know, if a player is playing for their hometown club, and it's a massive club, he'll have to put his head down, speak to the coach, and get back in the team.
So it seems all options at the moment for Marcus Rashford remain on the table. He could go, he could stay. One option that looks like it is going to happen for Anthony is a move away from Manchester United for the rest of the season, because United have given Anthony permission to fly to Seville for a medical with Real Betis. It's a straight loan. Betis will pay at least 84% of Anthony's wages plus bonuses. Now, this is interesting, Sky, because depending on individual and team performance, United could end up making a profit on Anthony's wages, rather like they did with Jadon Sancho last January, because they've got this incremental percentage that would come down the better the player performs. So definitely one to watch once that deal does go through. But Michael, I just want to come to you, because we're talking a lot at the moment about Manchester United departures. What about incomings and the latest on Patrick Dorgu?
Well, it's clear that United's prime target, I mean, we're talking about forwards with a lot of clubs, but Ruben Amorim, the way he plays, he wants a left wing back. And Manchester United fans asking us all the time, they're asking you a lot of the time, does outgoings hinge on any pursuit of incomings? No, it does not hinge on any outgoings in this transfer window. They want a left wing back, and it's Patrick Dorgu they want, but there is this gap still in valuation, isn't there? Lecce wanting a package, was it closer nearly to £38 million? Do you see some maybe kind of leeway there?
I mean, that's what Manchester United will hope to do. They are discussing with Lecce to bring that price down to get a compromise, to get Patrick Dorgu in at Old Trafford and I guess start this rebuild for Ruben Amorim, Sky. Just put into words how big this rebuild looks like at the minute.
You know, the risk clubs get when they put players on big money that are unproven in the Premier League is that you end up having to pay 84% of the players' wages to go to a club.
Let me just stop you there. Real Betis will actually pay 84%.
Oh, yeah, 84%. Yeah. Okay.
So they may have got a good deal on that one.
Okay. if it's Real Betis paying 84%, yes, that is a phenomenal deal, honestly, because obviously he's a player.
We shouldn't forget that he cost Manchester United 86 million.
He cost 86 million. Amorim's gone in there, right? You can imagine that normally if you go into a massive club, you make one or two tweaks. But he's gone in there and he's literally gone, I need all of these players out and I want certain players in. I think that he's still looking at Gyökeres at Sporting Lisbon. I think he wants to bring him in because he's a forward he's worked with and he knows what he can do. But the notorious problem of, see, fans, if fans know what's going on and fans could see what they'd do, it's not rocket science. Everything that's happening is what most fans would do. A lot of the fans are saying, right, Anthony needs to go, so they've got him out on loan, and they've managed to do a deal. Whoever did the Anthony deal deserves a medal because it's a great deal. Because the amount of money he must be on 10 million plus. They've paid 80 million for him, which would have been spread over his contract. So when you add his wages and the transfer that they're paying for him, well,
I'm thinking of the medal ceremony now, Sky, because I'm looking at Manchester United, and in the summer, Omar Barada came in from Manchester City, so new CEO. Dan Ashworth came in, took him ages at gardening leave, great garden, he can do his garden again because he's left Man United already.
Yeah.
Jason Wilcox came in, so many changes at the top. The only person who stayed was Eric Ten Hag, and now we finally got the new head coach. Totally different people at the top, but still the same difficult problems. And obviously one of the big problems for them was getting the players out that Ruben Amorim didn't want. And of course now they've got this issue with Marcus Rashford. But people forget there's been so many changes at Manchester United from the summer.
If you've got the money, for me, there's no excuse, right? If you've got the income and you've got the financial power, you have to get the best recruitment people. You have to listen to the opinions of the right people. Recruitment is all about who is making the decisions and who is deciding. Who's got the track record, you hire that person. Because what we've got at Man United is people, even legends, talking about what's going on with the recruitment. And then what they've done so far is that they've shown the fans that there needs to be a rebuild. It's not, and in football sometimes, clubs don't actually say we're going to do a rebuild, they just get players out. But it's absolutely fascinating what's going on at Manchester United because they've got the money and so really they should be at the top of the game because they've got the power to get the best people across the board.
Let's see how January develops because it's clear that Manchester United will want to offload some players. Sky, Michael, don't...
Alejandro Garnacho has been heavily linked with Chelsea. This is what Chelsea's head coach Enzo Maresca had to say about United's forward.
The club have been linked with a move for Alejandro Garnacho in this transfer window. Are you happy with the wide options you have, or do you think that you could do with one more right now?
No, I'm happy with the one that we have in this moment. That we said many times. In the right side is Pedro Noni, in the left side Jadon. With the club, with sport director, we pay attention if something can happen, and we see in the next 10 days if something is going to happen.
So, Michael, Maresca not saying too much, but we know that Chelsea have expressed an interest with about Garnacho. So where are we with that?
It's a player who is under consideration for Chelsea at present. Now, it might have to rely on Mykhailo Mudric's injury, potentially Nkunku moving on, João Felix, who's only just joined, potentially moving on as well. But we've seen already from Enzo Maresca, who's usually one of the most open managers, I feel, in press conferences. He likes to work with a tightish squad, seems to have his plan for when he plays in domestic competitions in Europe. But obviously we have to remember as well, there's another team at play here, Napoli had a bid rejected from Manchester United. Our colleagues in Italy are telling us that maybe United have perhaps lowered the demands but haven't reached a figure yet acceptable for Napoli. So you do wonder if there is an acceptable figure that Manchester United would consider. But unlike other Manchester United players, he's still being featured under Ruben Amorim.
Yeah, I don't think actually United want to sell Garnacho, but we've been talking about throughout this transfer window about, you know, untouchables in squads, various squads, and there aren't that many. A player like Alejandro Garnacho, the optics, I agree, wouldn't look great if they allowed someone like that to leave. But the financial situation at United and at other clubs is such that if a suitable offer was to come in, I'm not saying United would definitely sell, they would have to look at it. They have to look at every kind of offer that comes in.
But if they've lowered their valuation of him, that's them indicating to everybody he's for sale, isn't it?
Yes and no, because it's still a substantial figure that clubs would have to get to, and they haven't managed to get to yet. And so it's one of those situations, and Michael mentioned it there, he still started against Rangers yesterday. Ruben Amorim's been talking him up. He has been starting games recently. By all accounts, he played really, really well against Rangers. And it's one of those areas where Garnacho, is he almost a victim of Amorim's style and his formation? Because where does he actually fit in? He's a winger, but Amorim's playing with 2 number 10s and wing-backs. Does he fit into either of those? Maybe not, but Amorim has actually said he's learning and he will continue to learn in that position. So almost alluding to maybe a longer-term future at United for Garnacho, unless that big offer does come in, what United have to consider.
We also know Amorim, you can tell by the frustration the other day after their defeat to Brighton, he's desperate to get players in for his style. So there might have to be a player where maybe slight reluctance that someone has to move on to get the players he wants in. Because how many windows will it take for Amorim to change it? 3, 4?
Yeah, well, he may or may not go. Looks like Anthony is on his way out, Dharmesh. What's the latest on this?
Yeah, this one looks really, really close now. We were reporting earlier on in the week that it was really close to happening with Real Betis. Well, now Anthony has been given permission to travel to Seville to take a medical with Real Betis. The deal itself is a straight loan, and we've been given a little bit of information of how this deal is made up. And Real Betis will actually pay at least 84% of Anthony's wages plus bonuses. Now, when I say plus bonuses, this deal could eventually mean, with this loan, that Real Betis will actually pay more than Anthony's wages, and Manchester United could actually make a profit on what they would have actually had to have paid Anthony in wages until the end of the season. That's because it depends on team performances and individual performances, rather like they did when they allowed Jadon Sancho to go on loan to Borussia Dortmund.
Is it unusual to make a profit like that, though? I mean, that's good business by United.
I mean, I've only started hearing of this of late when I was told about this Sancho deal, because sometimes clubs, when they do a loan, people think, right, if he's on such high wages, what is the benefit of a club having to pay a substantial portion of someone's wages to get him to play somewhere else?
Yeah.
There is that one obvious benefit. If he plays well, then the market value goes up in the summer. But on this case, they can actually make more money during the loan. So say, for example, Manchester United's percentage, which we know now is 16%, that's what they'll pay. Depending on appearances, goal involvements, goals, assists, and how far Real Betis and how well they do, maybe that percentage will go down, even to the point where it will go into negative, which would mean Real Betis would actually have to pay more.
He has to go, doesn't he, Michael?
I think file this one under best for all parties. You need a fresh start. You know, Dharmesh has talked about the finances, but wow, I mean, let's not forget the fee the old Manchester United regime paid for him, but time to move on.
Yeah, indeed. Time to bring people in. As you've mentioned, left wing-back, really important for United. Are they going to get this fella?
They're trying. They're definitely trying. Manchester United are now discussing internally about their next steps with regard to this left wing-back Patrick Dorgu. Now, there is currently a gap in valuation between what Manchester United are prepared to pay and what Lecce want. Lecce, for their part, do not want to lose Dorgu in this transfer window. But then again, They are going to say that because it will be a good negotiating tactic to try and get Manchester United to raise their price. But they are expecting an improved offer from Manchester United, which we're told at the moment hasn't gone in just yet. Communication lines, though, between Manchester United and Lecce remain open. Remember, we saw pictures that Sky Italy provided from earlier on this week of Manchester United officials leaving a hotel in Milan, having had discussions with Lecce officials and the representatives of Patrick Dorgu. So we think the player himself is very open to that move to Old Trafford because it's a massive opportunity for him. Napoli are lurking in the background as well, though. They would want to do a permanent deal but then loan him back to Lecce, which Lecce might think, well, that sounds a lot better than what maybe Manchester United could offer.
Right, we're 13 minutes into the programme and I haven't said these words yet, but I'm going to. Marcus Rashford was seen training with his United teammates Wednesday. That's right. Once again, didn't make the matchday squad for the game against Rangers last night. Here's Ruben Amorim on his striker's future.
Ruben, just on Marcus and easing him back in, is it fair to say he will be staying at this football club this month? He won't be going out now?
I don't know. I really don't know.
But if he does stay, there's no go. You're going to reintegrate him.
Guys, it's 8 days. 8 days. We'll see in the end of the window what happened, and then we'll talk about that in the moment.
What do you make of that, Darmesh?
What I make of it is that all options are still on the table by the sounds of it. Marcus Rashford could stay at Manchester United. He could still leave Manchester United, but clearly time is running out. His preference, as we've been telling you, is Barcelona. They've got their own problems financially. They need to create salary space. AC Milan, with their non-EU rule, they're going for Kyle Walker, so that would count Marcus Rashford out of a move to Milan. Borussia Dortmund, I think they're still interested, but the finances are really, really just unworkable, I think, for them just now.
Feel like a bit of a mess potentially as well, you know, around Christmas time doing an interview, potentially wanting to move on and have a change and still here, and one reason or another not finding another club. Not ideal.
Yeah.
Chelsea lineup opening Alejandro Garnacho bid with Napoli moving on. Italian club's interest now appears to be elsewhere, but Chelsea will need to stump up more than 50M for Man United winger. Chelsea are lining up an opening bid for Alejandro Garnacho and could be left with a clear run for the Manchester United winger. Garnacho has been the subject of interest from Chelsea and Napoli, but the Italian club are also now in talks to try to sign Borussia Dortmund winger Karim Adeyemi. Should Napoli convince Adeyemi to move to Italy, then Chelsea could be the only club in the running to sign Garnacho before the January transfer window shuts. Chelsea are likely to make an opening bid for Garnacho, having made contact over his availability and made checks on his situation. There have been concerns over Garnacho's temperament from Chelsea and Napoli, but it now seems the West London club are getting ready to formalise their interest with an offer. United are ready to play hardball over the future of Garnacho, who they value at more than 50 million and are insistent they will not consider offers involving players they do not want moving in the opposite direction. There is a belief outside Old Trafford, however, that the Argentine will leave United before the transfer window shuts and that Chelsea are currently his most realistic potential destination. That could change if United dig their heels in over their valuation and Chelsea have made checks on other attackers such as Dortmund's Jamie Gittens and Bayern Munich's Mathis Tell. Given the choice between Chelsea and Napoli, it is believed Garnacho would favour a move to Stamford Bridge, where his Argentina international teammate Enzo Fernandez already plays. Chelsea's interest in Garnacho has been prompted by a desire to improve their attacking options, particularly on the left. Mykhailo Mudrik's absence after testing positive for a banned substance has left Chelsea one player down on the left side of their attack. There is also the possibility that Christopher Nkunku could leave after Bayern Munich made their interest clear, while Joe Flix has been linked with AC Milan.